Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, please like and subscribe. I know you hear it from everybody, but it really does help. So, today I want to talk about something that's really starting to bother me, and I'm concerned. In fact, I didn't sleep last night at all because this really had me up last night. You see, I may have mentioned this before, but you know, I was a military brat as a child. In fact, my father, when he first immigrated to this country, he was immediately drafted and sent into the Army. And my father, who wanted to be an engineer, got his golden opportunity by signing up for an MOS, military specialty, that put him in avionics, which put him on a path to working on military aviation, which would be the big thing in his life. And you know, he did his tour in Vietnam. You know, he was there for the Operation Bayonet and Shiny Bayonet, and you know, the big Ai Drang battle that was depicted in the movie. It was from the book that Joe Galloway and General Hal Moore wrote, Once We Were Soldiers. Yeah, he was involved in all that stuff. But after the war, he tried to adjust civilian life, and quickly, within a matter of a few short years, found himself back in uniform. Spent the rest of his life in uniform until he retired in the early 2000s, before he passed away. Well, we disagreed on politics a lot. But there was one thing that I could agree on with him, and that was that regardless of what party was in power, we could always rest assured that we had the most powerful military in the world, with the most lethal killing machines the world has ever devised at our disposal. And thus, while we may not have been the most saintly country, in fact, we've had our hands dirty in quite a bit of things over the years, I can't help but think of that scene in Star Trek, Next Generation, where the omnipotent Q has his powers taken away from him. And all of a sudden, every little pissant race is coming around and wanting for some payback. It's revenge. And right now, we're the Q right now. And it's a matter of time before somebody wants some payback. And this frightens me, because word has been leaking out just how disastrous this totally unnecessary, unwanted war that Donald Trump has started has jeopardized our military leadership and our forces abroad. Not only that, but the most alarming thing of them all is that this war has depleted our missile stocks, meaning if we were called upon to defend Taiwan, our fleet probably wouldn't be able to defend itself for too long. That's going to require a lot of munitions. China's got the biggest fleet in the world right now, and while they may not match ours won't be worth a hill of beans if we got no munitions to fight back with. Our adversaries in Russia could take full advantage of this. A host of nations could take advantage of this situation, and this frightens me because I lived through 9/11, okay, and it was a big shock to the system having somebody attack our country. But within a week, George W. Bush told us all to go shopping, and before too long, everybody forgot about it. Now there's a whole generation that thinks, it can't happen here. Oh, yes, it can. It certainly can. I mean, at this point, North Korea could take a pot shot at us and probably get away with it. Who knows? Not that they could actually win on a battle with us. We have superior firepower, but when it comes down to missiles, because, this is how wars are fought these days. Fought largely with missiles. Sure, not a long propaganda war. Drones, small munitions. I mean, the Ukrainians have proven that war is not the same as before, but there are certain things that, keeps us safe. And apparently, like everything else that Donald Trump touches, it's all fucked up now. And I worry. As former military brat, I could just imagine my father were alive today, hearing this news, he would be just screaming right now about what idiots could have allowed this to happen. I mean, they went in and they decapitated the leadership. They promoted loyalists. I mean, it's almost like they're working for another country. Well, it's not a secret that Vladimir Putin has held something over Donald, but just how far would this vain motherfucker go? God help us all if someone takes advantage of this situation. I don't want to see people die, I know a lot of people out around the world will say, America has it coming. Perhaps, but there'd be a lot of innocent people that wouldn't deserve it. And all because of the vanity of one man or the manipulation of a Russian dictator. Who's to say? Or maybe this guy is just ridiculously beyond incompetent, or hates his country so much he thought the only way he could destroy it, since he obviously couldn't buy it, was to lead it. Who's to say? I don't know. Let's just hope for you and my sake that nightmare scenario where every little pissant country that's got a legitimate gripe comes calling. Because if that happens, who knows what kind of suffering we'll see. I'll never forget how we felt after 9/11. And it was sad. It really was sad. Right now, while this guy continues to have a news blackout, I mean, we don't even know what's fully going on with Ukraine. It's like, but we know they're holding out and they're scoring points right now. And Russia is really going downhill, But at the same time, in less time, I mean, Ukraine and Russia have been at it for now 5 years. Donald Trump has been at it with Iran in 5 months, and total intelligence failure. It's like we were told these guys didn't have weapons, that could hit us. Hello, they got hypersonic weapons, something we didn't have much of, Experimented. We didn't like those things because they're a little hard to control, as Russia has found out in the Ukraine war. But evidently, there were Persians. They're smart people. Never underestimate your enemy. That was the cruel lesson of Vietnam. We went in there thinking that our technology would win the day, and we could institute whatever government we wanted, just so we could say, we stopped the domino effect. We'd stop communism. Well, that didn't work out so well. I watched a generation of men unable to talk about their experiences except through their fists, and I'm sorry to say I was kind of a recipient of that. I don't hold it against my old man. God rest his soul. Just glad he's not here to see this. This is worse. It really is. And I hope, again, I hope this nightmare ends soon. But if anything else, regardless of what happens, whether that man chokes on a cheeseburger or, I don't know, say somebody just happens to get him in his eyesight, who knows? I don't know. Whatever happens, we're going to be left with a big mess to clean up. And it's going to take years. And we may never regain our standing as being the most powerful nation on earth anymore. Who's to say? If anything, we're going to have to really take a hard look in the mirror and say, how did we get here? How was it that this convicted felon, this known rapist, this known fraudster took control of our democracy and destroyed it from within? And it'll all go back to racism and hatred, and this is what, he ran on. Still continues to run on. Yesterday was transgender people like me. Today it's communism. Can't find any communists. Then again, originally they went after drag queens. Couldn't find any. I love this country. This is my home. I grew up here. I may not always agree with it. I may not always agree with its leaders. I definitely am opposed to this capitulation of reason that has led us to where we are now. I am totally against it. I make no secret about it. I'm probably on a few watch lists right now. It's just for speaking about it. Even that too is un-American. But I just know that when it's all said and done, this country's going to take a hard look in the mirror, and it's going to have to face the fact that the things that brought us here is this country's own collective fault for failing to own its history, for failing to come to terms with the sin of slavery and the ultimate sin of racism. Greed, unfettered markets, just the greed. We had laws, they were called, antitrust laws to prevent these oligarchs from seizing so much power. But it seems like this spineless Supreme Court kept conveniently gutting every law after law after law to make this happen. Well, you still believe in that cause, then, congratulations. I hope you're proud of yourself. You've destroyed the United States of America and severely crippled its democracy. God help us all if we all paid the ultimate price because of this stupidity. There's a lot of bad going on while this man remains in power. And we're never going to know the truth of everything because the oligarchs, that billionaire class that he has helped make possible, well, they control the media. They control everything. And it's just one of many things we're going to have to address ultimately. If this country is to survive, if we can get back on that American experiment in democracy, we're going to have to go back and go through the books and present the receipts. And ultimately, there's going to be some price to pay. I think everyone is going to feel it. And I wish it weren't so. But on the current course that we're on, we're at that point where they're about to call women and children first. Some people have already made it for the lifeboats. I'm not allowed to travel out of the country. In fact, I'm not even sure I can board a plane because of these watch lists. Me being transgender, I'm a dangerous ideology. Yeah, right. No, I'm not an ideology. I'm a piece of nature that a lot of people who, until recently, didn't know we existed, just can't accept. And, so what? They can't accept it, I don't particularly like rednecks very much, but, I wouldn't be going out of my way to pass laws to make them illegal, to each his own. You don't like somebody or don't like how a person lives, mind your own business. Simple as that. But it's that hate. God is here. And how we're all going to pay. And, you know, I always used to hear this as a kid. We could always rest assured we had that safety and security, knowing our U.S. military was going to keep us safe regardless of how bad things were. And now, for the first time in my entire life, they can't say that. In fact, they are sounding the alarms. And the sooner the civilian population wakes up to that fact, oh God, there'll be a lot of sleepless nights between then. All right, folks. I hope this ship can ride itself, but we all know it's not going to happen by itself. It's going to take a lot of people, and it's going to take a lot of self-reflection, and we're going to have to rebuild the safeguards of democracy, rebuild the safeguards of checks and balances, and we're going to have to reform the Supreme Court, obviously, and possibly make amendments to the Constitution. It's one of many things we have to consider. There's just going to be a lot of reckoning, and I fear the chaos and the violence that will come from it. And I hope that it would be very nice if just people took a big sigh of relief and say, okay, you know, like people did at the end of World War II, they just, whether they were forced to or chose to, people just started cleaning up. And believe me, this America, the United States, we have a lot of cleaning up to do at home. Because right now, the home's on fire, the house is on fire. And we're still trying to determine who gets to use the bathroom. It's so stupid. Well, folks, please give it some thought, and whatever belief you have or none, or hope, pray that we'll all get through this. And maybe one day we'll be able to look at that flag again, and maybe it might mean something again. You know, I would like to see that. I like to be proud of my country. Because right now, I'm just so ashamed right now. And if my father were here, he would just, I don't know how he'd handle it. You know, 35 years in the Air National Guard, in addition to those 3.5 years in the United States Army, and a tour in Vietnam. I'm not sure how we'd process any of this. And I'm sure that there are other combat veterans, maybe from his generation or the generations that followed, that might feel that way. Who's to say? I'm just an ex-military brat. All right, folks. Please be good to each other, because if this country's to have a chance at redemption, we're going to need everybody's love. We're going to need everybody's head in the right place. And we're going to need a lot of help. And it's going to require more than just the village. All right, until that time, please be good to each other. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Love you all.